Hi everyone, it's Caitlin from Really Big Plant. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Really big plant.
So for this video, we are going to be staking up some of my plants that really just need some extra support. I have a Philodendron brandtianum, a Monstera siltepecana, my pink princess philodendron, and my Philodendron giganteum that all really need a little bit of extra support. So I'm just going to go ahead and add some poles to the pot and try to resituate some of these plants in a way that can encourage some better upwards growth. Right here I've got my Philodendron giganteum, and I moved the table around and I kind of have this plant separate from the other plants because it actually is suffering from spider mites, which I recently treated, and I'm hopefully on the tail end of that. But I don't know if you guys saw my Really Big Plant Tour video, but when I mentioned this plant, I think I briefly mentioned that I thought I spotted some variegation on the leaves at the time, and it turns out that actually what I saw was spider mite damage, and I didn't realize it in the moment when I was filming, but a few days after I posted that video, I realized that this plant actually has spider mites, so I've been treating it and keeping it separate from my other plants, which is why I didn't want to put it on the table. I can show you what's going on with it. It's in this pot here, and if I let it go, I don't want to let it go all the way because I think it's gonna maybe snap at the base here because the top is so heavy. It's been growing up against my window, and it's been leaning against the wall for a long time, and I didn't realize how dependent this plant had become on having a structure behind it to hold it up. So once I started treating it for spider mites and started moving it all around and putting it in my shower and stuff like that, I realized that I really need to put some support in here so that it's not always so precarious. So, okay, I'm gonna just lean it back on my couch. I'm not doing anything fancy. I've got this little bamboo pole here, and I'm just gonna go ahead and stick it in the pot behind the plant. I hate doing this because I know that I'm probably damaging some roots, but it'll recover and it's fine. It needs the stake. I like using this wide plant tape because it's a little bit wider than when you use like a hemp twine, which is okay on a smaller plant, but sometimes for a plant that's really thick and heavy, it can put a lot of stress or potentially even put a little cut into the plant if you use too thin of a rope or piece of twine to support it. So I like opting for this thicker stuff for bigger plants. All right, so there is my staked Philodendron giganteum. It's doing a lot better now. I don't have to support the plant when I pick it up, so that's great news. I'm gonna just take it and set it back over in the front of my apartment where I've been keeping it separate from some of my other plants. Yay, I feel so good about that. So just wash my hands too, because like I said, that plant is recovering from spider mites. Okay, so the other plants that I have are this Monstera siltepecana here, this enormous but small growing Philodendron brandtianum that's got a ton of runners because I think it really wants some support. And then I have my pink princess philodendron right here. So I think what I'm gonna do is just do the pink princess right now because this one's gonna be really quick. I'm just gonna take another little bamboo pole and I'm going to stick it not into the soil, but just between the nursery pot and the cache pot. So I've got this philodendron in a plastic pot inside of a ceramic larger pot. And what I'm gonna do is just put this pole in behind the plant. So from the side, you can see that they're not even near each other at all. And I'm gonna just use some twine to kind of loosely stop the plant from falling over. The reason why I'm not sticking the pole into the soil is because I don't like to do that. I think that the pole tends to be unstable in the soil anyway and just potentially disrupts the root system. So I like to add in the pole when I repot the plant, or like we just saw with the Philodendron giganteum, if I feel like I absolutely have to and the plant really needs something, I can stick a support in. this pink princess philodendron just started to get tall enough and just started going through another growth spurt that I feel like I should probably add some support in. But I've been kind of on the fence about whether or not I want to propagate it and what I want to do with it. And basically I don't want to just like stick this pole in here because I've been kind of thinking that I want to repot it. So I'm just going to go ahead and give it a little bit of loose support. So even if this stick were to lean one direction or the other, it wouldn't fall over completely and it's still holding up this plant. So I feel like this amount of support is good enough and all I need for the moment. So I thought I would just show that to you guys because this is not a permanent solution. It's just sort of a temporary transitional point for this plant while I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do with it. And then here, I've got this MONSTERA SILTEPECANA, which has grown one vine that's super long. It's all the way over here. And then the rest of the plant has stayed kind of smaller down here. And what I noticed was when I first got this plant, I staked up one of the vines. I stuck this pole into the plastic pot. This plant is also in a plastic pot inside of just a cash pot. And when I first got the plant, I stuck a pole into the nursery pot and decided to just tie one of the vines to it. And just that vine took off growing like crazy. So I decided that I think I want to add some more supports in here. Now that the other vines have started to grow a little bit more, I want to go ahead and give them a little bit of additional support. So I have this trellis that I made a long time ago for a plant that I didn't end up using it for. So this is just two little pieces of bamboo pole connected with some dowels, like skewers, just like cooking skewers that I tied on here with a little bit of rope. And I'm gonna just essentially do the same thing and just stick this in between the plastic pot and the cash pot. And I'm also going to remove this stick, and I think I'm gonna propagate this whole vine because it got really long and there's a lot of good leaves on here, and I don't know if I want to let this plant get super huge. I might just kind of keep it manageable on this little trellis. Okay, so this particular vine is pretty long and it has a lot of leaves, but it's kind of barren towards the bottom. So I'm gonna cut it probably pretty low down all the way in towards the base of the plant. But there's so much new growth over here that I'm not worried. I'm actually excited to propagate it. So go ahead and just make that cut. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna stick the trellis in here between the plastic pot and the ceramic pot. So, oh crap. Okay, there's a ton of roots in here. I should probably repot this, huh? I obviously haven't looked in this pot, but there are a lot of roots down there. Shoot, okay. So I'm gonna just put in this trellis and do what I was originally planning. Take this and stick it back here. And it looks like this plant is already really trying to just grab onto here. So I don't think I even need to tie it. Here I have it for now and show you how I'm gonna propagate this vine. Okay, got some little jars of water. And I'm gonna do these as water propagations because the vine is really kind of thin and delicate, and I want to be able to see when the new growth starts to emerge and want to make sure that I'm not crushing it under my potting mix, because I usually like to use a pretty rocky kind of sharp mix, and I do worry sometimes that when I soil propagate little delicate cuttings from a plant like this, it can kind of damage the newest growth that comes out. I do have some brown spots on this Monstera too that you might have noticed from a couple of times where I accidentally underwatered the plant a little bit, but for the most part, it's fine. Here we go. I'm just cutting them between the nodes. So you wanna preserve the little bit with the root. And for the most part, I think every single one of these nodes that I wanna propagate has a little aerial root already, which means that it's going to be pretty easy to get it to root out in water, hopefully. Okay, I've got 14 little cuttings. Hooray, super cute. I've got a ton of little Monstera Siltepecana propagations, and I just decided that I think I'm gonna do a giveaway. I've never done anything like this before, but I think why don't you just comment on this video what your favorite vining plant is, and you will be qualified to enter the giveaway, and I will go ahead and use one of those random selectors to pick someone, and I'll go ahead and send you some cuttings from this plant. Maybe I'll choose 2 people. I'll choose 2 people who comment to get some cuttings from this plant. This probably also can only be for people in the United States. I'm gonna look into it and post all of the rules in the description if I decide to go through with this. I think this is just a fun thing to do. Hooray! I've got these Monstera Siltepecana propagations. I'll probably wait to send them until they root a little bit so that they have a better chance. Wow, I feel really excited now to be doing this. So hooray, these are gonna be some little giveaway cuttings, I guess. So there you have it, my first giveaway. Okay, and then the last plant that we're gonna do is this crazy Philodendron brandtianum that I have here. So this is the philodendron with the really sort of silver leaf, and when I got it, it was a pretty small plant. I've had it for a while now, and I've never really had any support for it. This plant sort of started growing these runners in every direction, and I think I didn't notice because when I first brought it home, it wasn't in great shape and it didn't really grow too much, so I kind of just started ignoring it. And then I had it in my plant shelf where I've got a lot of aerial roots and other plant messiness, and just hadn't noticed that a lot of the runners that were all around the shelf actually belonged to this plant. So I kind of recently noticed how much this plant had grown, and I decided that I wanted to give it a better chance because it started growing all of these really kind of tiny leaves, as vining plants tend to do when they want to grow up but are growing down and don't have any support. So I'm going to add it to a really tall pole. So I had this crazy idea to just use the tallest pole ever. I am a huge fan of these giant bamboo poles. I just get them from a hardware store that's kind of close to me. But I have this big bamboo pole here that is taller than me. Go all the way back here to show you the height of this pole. And this is what I want to attach the Philodendron brandtianum to. So I was trying to figure out what kind of pot I wanted to put it in, because right now it's in a really small 4-inch pot, and I guess I should check on the roots and see if there's roots coming out the bottom. No, there are no roots coming out the bottom. So I kind of figured with this plant, it's not too thirsty all the time, so I figured that it doesn't actually have a huge root system down there. So I don't want to repot it into a much larger pot, which would normally be required for supporting a huge pole like this. So what I'm doing instead is I'm going to take another cash po and make it super heavy and try to see if I can support this pole in there. I've got this tin pot that I filled with rocks to like here, which is roughly like the height of the nursery pot above it. And I'm going to stick the pole in here and put the plant in as well. And I'm hoping that the weight of this is going to be sufficient to hold the plant up. If it feels too precarious, I'm not gonna go through with it, but I think that this should be sufficient. So I'm taking the jar and then tipping it and freeing up the side of the jar so that I can put the stick in. And then just righting it, and then adjusting the rocks so that it holds the stick. I think this is gonna work. Put it back here so you can see. And I'm pretty sure we're good. So I'm gonna take this saucer here and just stick it inside so that when I water the plant, it doesn't all just drain to the bottom of the rock layer and collect there and get gross. So it was hanging facing this way, but because I'm gonna mount it with the vines climbing up the pole, I'm gonna turn it so the vines face the other way and just plop it in here. Oh yeah, that fits perfectly. Okay, so I planned this. I measured the rocks out ahead of time. so it should fit perfectly. I've got my little jar of twine here, and I'm gonna start just tying these vines up one by one to this pole. Oops. Okay, I totally just broke this vine off. That's not bad. Guess I'm propagating this one too. Okay, I feel like this looks pretty good. I mean, it also looks kind of crazy, but I like it. So now it's going to live probably like on the floor so that it can grow really tall, but I'll go back all the way over here so that you can see what it looks like in full. Can you see that? Okay, so the pole comes up to here, and right now the top leaf on the plant is like right here. Some of these runners look kind of crazy. I might decide to cut them off and let the plant grow more vigorous, bigger growth now that it's supported. But for now, I think I'm probably going to just leave it like this and see what happens. I kind of have a feeling that the next leaves that come out from these big runners are going to be much larger in size, and they're going to start to get thicker and more robust. So it's always good to give your climbing plants some extra support. So here we have it. Got this Philodendron brandtianum all potted up. Okay, I guess I should propagate this vine too. It just snapped apart there, so here's one propagation. I think I'm gonna let this just be a really long runner and see what happens to it. There's like some new growth that had been starting to form up top, so we'll see. This piece might die off, but I'm hoping that this piece will be able to propagate into another plant. That's exciting too. Okay, so I was eyeing the Monstera Siltepecana that I just added these poles to and decided that I do want to give it a little bit of help and just repot it into the same pot that it's in now. I noticed that the soil level in this plastic pot is actually pretty depleted, and so I'm going to just pull the plant out and add a little soil to the bottom and plop the plant back into the nursery pot and then put it back on the trellis. I was thinking about these roots and was just feeling guilty, so I'm gonna take these roots and untangle them. Sometimes when you have roots that have grown this far out of the bottom of the pot, they will actually come out one hole and then grow back in through another hole. So you get these loops that are impossible to untangle, and some of them you have to just sort of cut through, and that's okay. I'm just untangling the roots a little bit because I noticed that they were winding and sort of really stacked on top of each other at the bottom. Got this repotted, and there are no more roots sticking out of the bottom. So I'm gonna just stick it back into this cash po, and I'm gonna just take the trellis and put it back. All right, so there's the Monstera Siltepecana, all set up, repotted, and ready to grow. Okay, I found another piece of Philodendron brandtianum on the floor when I was moving things around just now, so I guess I was rougher on the plant than I thought when I was staking it up. This is the piece that I cut up a second ago, as well as this one with the really long runner, so I'm gonna just stick them into this vase of water. Then for this piece, it's got a little leaf and then one really sad little leaf at the top. So I'm gonna just cut this right here, stick this in here too. Got this crazy cup of Philodendron brandtianum runners. So runners, by the way, is the word that people use for when they start to grow a really long vine that doesn't grow leaves. And usually when plants start to grow runners, it's because they are looking for support or more light, or they need more nutrients. There could be a lot of reasons, but generally it's because the plant isn't super happy. Sometimes it's because they need additional humidity. there could be a lot of factors. And so I know some people do try to propagate rare plants just from cuttings of a runner. Generally, in my experience, the runners tend to not take. So we'll see what happens with these. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this video was entertaining or informative in some way. Staking up these plants is a task that I've been kind of putting off for a little while now, so I feel really good to have done that and to know that these plants are going to be getting the support they need. I would love to hear from you on how you stake your plants, if you prefer to use moss poles or just like regular bamboo poles, or what type of material you tend to use. I hope that this technique of putting the pole in between the plastic pot and the outer pot is something that you can use if it's a solution that seems applicable for any of your plants. I know that I did some chaotic mentions of a giveaway in here. I will include full details in the description, and I think I probably will be announcing a winner, let's say like 2 weeks after the release of this video. I'm not sure yet. I have to figure it out. I need to like read some rules. I will be following up maybe with one of those community tab posts or with a pinned comment. I'm not completely sure. Sorry, this is disorganized, but check the description below for full details on the giveaway, and definitely drop a comment if you have any questions about anything. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching and for subscribing and liking this video and commenting. And for the people who have already subscribed to my channel and have been supporting me, I just want to say thank you so much. Your support really is so encouraging and means so much to me. So I'm hoping that doing a little giveaway is like giving a little bit back to you. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.